Welcome to Dental Success Beyond Chairside, the podcast that is dedicated to revolutionising the way dental professionals succeed beyond the dental chair. Join us for a unique blend of insightful interviews with industry experts and valuable tidbits of information to help you thrive in your dental specialist practice. In each 20-minute episode, we'll delve into a variety of topics, including HR, marketing, innovative techniques and systems, and AI, to help you transform your practice and unlock its full potential. Whether you're a dentist, specialist, or oral health therapist looking to enhance your practice, this podcast is your go-to resource for professional, personal, and profitable success. Get ready to go beyond the dental chair and discover what lies ahead in your practice journey with Dental Success Beyond Chairside. Welcome to today's episode of Dental Success Beyond Chairside. Do you feel overwhelmed by the pressure to keep up with social media, Google reviews, and online engagement, yet you and your team just don't have the time? You're not alone, and today's guest knows exactly how to help. I'm joined by Tony Van Eyk, Managing Director of BirdEye Australia, a global leader in reputation management, customer experience, and local marketing technology. With a strong background in AI and digital systems, Tony helps dental practices across Australia and New Zealand modernise their online presence, attract new patients, and improve retention. Tony, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode.
No, excited to be here. Thanks very much, Michelle.
Excellent. Really appreciate it and looking forward to what you've got to share. Can you tell us a bit about your journey, Tony, and how BirdEye is helping dental practices stay on top of reviews, social media, and patient communication without adding more stress to the team?
As you said, BirdEye is a platform. We're an AI marketing and customer experience platform. But when people go, what does that actually do, if you will? Dental practices have a lot to keep up with today, and it can certainly feel overwhelming. But essentially what BirdEye helps practices do is help them attract patients in a cost-effective manner. The second thing is actually helping them stand out above their competition based on their online reviews, and also look for ways to, help their team improve customer experience. So, those same patients continue to come back. Then also providing teams with tools that can actually help them save time and focus on, more, high value tasks, within the practice.
Okay. So do you want to talk about each of those factors? Well, the first one was attract patients in a cost-effective manner.
When we think about attracting patients in cost-effective manner, there are many different ways in which to attract a new patient. So I think most, dental practices will have experienced spending money on paid advertising, be that Google or Facebook ads. Although that can be a great short-term solution, it's a very expensive long-term solution. What we focus with our dental practice on about helping them attract new clients is how do we really help them build the strongest possible presence from a local search perspective. And when we think about local search, we think about platforms like Google Maps and Apple, because when a consumer today is looking for a new dental practice, they're generally looking for it either close to where they work or close to their place of work. So if you can focus your effort and attention on that, yes, it may take you a longer time to build up. I think certainly over the long term, it's a much more cost-effective manner of ensuring you have a consistent flow of patients. The second kind of point connects to that, which is it's not just about being found on those platforms, is you also have to give consumers the absolute confidence that you're the best person for them to choose. That's when, we think about online reviews. It's your opportunity in order to be able to influence a consumer to choose you above your competitors. So, we'll help dental practices doing that by automated follow-up campaigns through their, PMS system, or even, providing practice management staff solutions to gain feedback from customers when they're dealing with them. What we really focus on is making sure that process is highly automated, because most practices know it's important. It's just one of the 1,000 jobs they need to keep on top of.
You're exactly right, Tony.
I was reading some statistics the other day, and there's not as many people searching on Google because there's other things around now. But dentist near me is a really big thing, and having your Google my business profile, having those Google reviews is really important, because a lot of people, before they've even picked up the phone, they're already searching for you. One of the things that they'll look at is those Google reviews to see what they're actually like. And I know, being in practices and worked in practices myself and trying to get those reviews, it is really difficult, because quite often people go, yeah. And you'll go, oh, do you want to do it now? Here's the QR code. No, I'll do it when I get home. And it's just this manual follow-up. So having a platform that's able to automate and help keep it in people's minds and present nicely is a really good thing, because you might be able to ask them, but that follow-up is hard. And then you don't get them and you get really disappointed.
Yeah. And I think, you mentioned an interesting point about like consumer search, consumer behavior changing as well, about like where consumers are searching. And there is absolutely a huge change happening in consumer behavior today. I ask any dental practice to think to themselves, like, is there anything today that you use ChatGPT for that maybe 12 months ago you used Google for? I think like the answer for most people is yes. That's the same as consumers. Not only is it important now to have a presence on places like Google, but one of the places that we're also educating our clients on the importance of both having and optimizing is actually Bing. Bing is not that any like I don't ever use Bing as an example. I don't think many consumers do it as a search engine. But if you look at where does ChatGPT as an example get its information from, it's not licensed to use Google My Business data. It actually does get a lot of information from Bing. One of the things like the BirdEye platform does is it'll, yes, optimize you on Google, but it'll also optimize you on Bing, because you now need to really be thinking about, well, I want to both be optimizing my business for Google, but as more and more consumers start to search using these large language models, you also need to start thinking about in that as like another stream, which I know is adding to the existing problem, but that's a reality of where we are today.
Exactly. And I think being forward thinking, the landscape with AI, with technology, I mean, post-COVID, the landscape of dentistry changed so much anyway, with not being able to attend practices and people looking at telehealth and that type of thing being allowed. It's hard to keep up with everything. I did read about that, and I didn't actually understand until you explained it then about Bing and how that those language LLAs or whatever they're called work. So, wow. How about customer experience? That was the next thing you spoke about.
Yeah. So customer experience, and this has changed a lot over the last probably 5 years. COVID accelerated what are customers' expectations today. We try to educate businesses today is like consumers want an Amazon-like experience with every business they deal with. If you go, what does Amazon mean? It means that it needs to be fast and it needs to be digital. If you think about like the process as an example of what does good customer experience look like in a dental practice today, I expect to be able to book my appointments online. I expect to be able to confirm or cancel my appointments via text message. I expect if I go on a dental practice's website for them to have an artificial intelligence chat that I can ask questions to outside of hours. I expect to be able to communicate via text message as an example. I don't want to use email or phone calls. It's like we give practices all of the tools to provide a modern day customer experience. So if that be things like text messages, an AI chat feature as an example, that for us is all about improving customer experience. Then the second thing is if your customers are happy with their experience today, because you said reviews, not everyone's willing to give them or they don't do it. Are you actually getting genuine feedback? And for us, that's probably more in like the surveys world. So what we would help practices do at a certain stage in their patient journey, also request more detailed feedback from a survey perspective outside of just a review. It was interesting. I actually got a survey from a dentist that I took my son to. It was his very first time going to a dentist. As a parent, you're like, oh my God, how is this going to go? It was just such a good touch point. We know this was your son's first experience at a dentist. We wanted to hear directly what your feedback was and could we have done anything to improve it? That for me was just like such a good example. And they actually did an excellent job. So didn't have any like critical feedback, but just such a good example of like business understanding what customer experience is.
And it was very personalized.
Yeah, it was very personalized.
Yeah, that's exactly right, which is really important as well. now you can automate personal messages, as well, which is good.
I think there's probably no excuse now not to be able to do those things, because the tools exist today. Businesses that embrace those types of tools, are going to leave practices behind that certainly don't.
Yes. With regard to the BirdEye platform, you talked about the PMSs. Do you integrate into many of the dental systems?
Yeah, we integrate into a number of different PMS systems. I know a very common one and very popular on a lot of our customers is one like Core Practice. BirdEye has over 3,000 integrations inside our platform. One way or another, in most cases, we'll be able to get information from their PMS across to BirdEye, either in a native integration or a third-party connection.
Okay, excellent. Obviously, you talked about these tools saving time, and I personally know how they save time, but can you give some feedback from some of your clients who are using BirdEye and what they're saying and how it's affecting their practices, please, Tony?
Yeah, I think from a time saving piece, there is a couple of different ways, but I'll probably share like one or two very practical examples where people go, hey, like this has made a tangible difference. It's not just like a minute or two here or there. I think like most practices today agree with the importance of social media. But the reality of time constraints is it's not like every practice has their own marketing manager or a social content person, right? So like we know social content's important, but we don't have time to do it, or we do it ad hoc. One week we do it, one week we don't, etc. I think the introduction of AI agents inside the BirdEye platform. So we have an AI agent, which is called a social agent. What it essentially does is it curates social media content for you. Think about Facebook, Instagram, Google, LinkedIn, whatever platforms you want to post to. It can do everything from ideation, can give you ideas, and then you can work with it. It can create the full content from start to finish, including images as well. You can either upload your own or we use royalty-free images. How a practice manager could do it, or whoever's doing the social media, they essentially go to the AI agent and say, hey, I would like you to create me, let's just say 5 posts a week. I'd like them to be across all 4 platforms. I want you to do this based on my industry, my relevant social days. So depending on where we're based, it might be Christmas or New Year holidays coming up, etc. I also want you to curate the post based on my previous top performing posts. A task that used to take people hours to create like good social media content every week is now gone to minutes. So I don't think I've ever seen such a big difference in time saving before, like 2 hours yesterday, 2 minutes today. That is one good example of a lot of time saved. Other examples will be automated responses to customer feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Also things like we think about frequently asked questions it's just amazing how far artificial intelligence chat has come. It is like speaking to a human, and I think we've probably all had negative experiences with them in the past. I remember calling Telstra back in the day and used to just press 1 as many times as I could to try to speak to someone just because it was such a bad experience. That does not happen today with those AI chat features. That's another tangible difference for a lot of practices, is empowering those AI chat to answer a lot of those frequently asked questions.
I'll go over the AI chat. The AI agent that creates your social media, obviously you can check it just to make sure that everything's okay. Does that post automatically too? Are you integrated with all of the social media platforms to post automatically?
Yeah, so we are integrated with all the major social platforms, Facebook, Google, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. There won't be a platform we're not integrated with. It's a really good point about AI is we call it human in the loop AI. So there are 2 types of AI agents in the world today. So there's what they call a supervised AI agent, which is where before the work is finalized, a human checks it. Then unsupervised, which is an AI completes a task start to finish without a human checking it. In our opinion, AI, in particular in consumer-facing content such as social media, I don't think it's there yet. I think that human in the loop is very important. But what I would say as well is when people think about AI, social content or review responses, like normally concerns people have is AI going to write content that is industry compliant? They might be worried about healthcare regulations as one. Then the second is it going to create content that is generic or is it going to be on brand? When a new practice signs up to BirdEye, when they first set up their AI inside, we actually give them their own large language model, if you will, which is fine-tuned to their industry first, default set to dental practices. And We have over 20,000 dental practices. We have quite a lot of data on that specific industry. It's our largest industry. And the second thing is the business can also train it based on its brand guidelines. You can say, hey, here's my brand guidelines. And also it has what we call guardrails. So don't say these types of things. We have pre-built guardrails, like don't ever use a customer's name or treatment offered as an example, etc., to make sure it's compliant with things like HIPAA or APRA guidelines, depending on where the business is based. They can select all of that. If they've got documents that say this is what our brand guidelines are, that's easy. But secondly is what our tool does. It actually scans your website for you and sees how you've currently written what is your tone on your website, based it on that. But if you also want to say, hey, look, we actually are more a little bit more professional or a little bit more, we want some more humor in ours, you can set all those up. You can also give it like documents where you can say, look, these are other pieces of content we produced and we want it to be similar to that as well. So there's actually lots of different ways to fine tune it.
So how long does it take to set up in the practice, Tony?
Depending on the packages that a customer purchases, but anywhere between kind of like 1 to 3 hours with our onboarding implementation teams. We look at our job as doing as much heavy lifting as possible for the practice. Really what we want the practice to do is to connect things like their Google and Instagram connections to our platform, let us do everything else, and then we'll work on making sure that it's set up and optimized for the practice. But 1 to 3 hours would be your average.
And how about training? That's including training, is it?
The second part of that 1 to 3 hours, 1 hour is the absolute minimum someone would need to commit, and hours 2 and 3 are really focused on staff training, but also ongoing. And without going into kind of too much detail, is every customer in BirdEye has what we call a health score, which is really, are they utilizing the platform? If any customer's health score drops below 70%, which means they're not utilizing more than 70% of the platform, our team's actually reaching out proactively from a training perspective as well. I guess we kind of approach training at the start, but we think that's an ongoing responsibility as well.
Wow. Excellent. So is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd still like to share with our listeners, Tony?
Look, I think the only thing, there's a lot of conversations about artificial intelligence. I don't think artificial intelligence is going to take the job of a dentist anytime soon. What I would encourage any practice to think about, it's not AI that's going to take a job, but practices that embrace these technologies are going to overtake practices that don't. Just from an efficiency standpoint, an online presence standpoint, like it's going to be impossible to compete with a dentist that fully embraces these modern technologies. So I think it's just making sure that you look at the positives of all of these new technologies coming, understand there's guardrails in place, and embrace it and get the most out of it.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's never going to replace a dentist. And at a practice, it's always going to be that trust, that one-to-one and with the patient. These are tools, as you said initially, that are going to save time. This series is all about system. We wanted to highlight what's available to our listeners. Thank you, Tony, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. For more information about Tony and BirdEye, please see our show notes. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thanks very much.
No worries.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast or YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue sharing practical insights from leaders in the dental industry. In our next episode of Dental Success Beyond Chairside, I'm joined by Joe Ciccarello from My Dental SOP. Joe specialises in creating streamlined, centralised systems for dental practices, making it easy to get your SOPs set in one place without the overwhelm. If you're ready to simplify, systemise and scale, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.